Hello everybody, it's your Progress E.V.A here, and okay, this speed paint is a little different from my normal ones. The reason for that is, well, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that most of my chill speed paint videos, I usually put a little time thing on how long the piece took. You might have noticed that I usually tend to spend anywhere around 3 to 4 hours on a piece. The longest one I've done being the artwork from this video taking 5 hours. At least it was the longest one I've worked on until this one, because yeah, that's not a joke. And I rounded down that number too. Now, some of you might be thinking 6 hours, that's super long. But some of you might also be thinking, oh, that's not too bad. And that's true, especially when some other artists will spend upwards to 10 hours on a piece or even longer. However, it's twice as long as my normal work time, and I was honestly surprised when I saw it only took 6 hours. I could have sworn it was like 7 or 8. This drawing, like I said, has a bit of a story to it, but I do want to say that I don't hate this drawing. In fact, I really like how it turned out in the end. It was just a bit painful to get to the end product, like literally. So let's go over why. Unlike my other artworks, I recorded the entire process, including the sketch, which is how I was able to get a more accurate hour count. The reason why is because this drawing was actually going to be the subject of my illustration process video. However, during the sketching, I was having a hard time getting the anatomy down and figuring out how to draw the wings. For this drawing, I wanted it to be a sort of birdcage situation featuring my character Xavier. You remember him? The one from last week. It's funny how I was able to make this video right after that, huh? But anyway, since I was Xavier, I thought it would be more fitting for the cage and the swing to have rose vines around them, but I took it a step further and decided to make his wings out of rose petals. But then I tried to look up what rose wings would look like, and I couldn't find much, so I kind of winged it. I'll go home now, I'm so sorry. So I figured that out in sketching, but I made the mistake of drawing them really loosely, because you'll see in a little bit with the liner that it took forever to be able to draw them cleanly. In hindsight, what I probably should have done was drawn them in my more painterly style, where the line art isn't as clean and I can make things as loose as I want. But you have to remember that I thought this video was going to be the drawing I was using for my standard illustration process video, where everything's a bit more clean and I use a harder brush for line art, so I didn't think of that. I kind of knew I was screwed though when I looked at my video recording software and saw that it took me a solid hour just to do the sketch, when normally it would take me like 20 to 40 minutes to do. I was panicking slightly at this point, but I took a break and came back to do the line art. Lining out Xavier himself wasn't so bad, but like I said, the real deal was the wings, and they not only took forever to draw, but just about killed my hand. Not only that, but I was trying my best to make the wings look like they were covered in petals rather than feathers, so I tried to make every one of them look like more curved. And yes, I did draw all the petals by hand, which probably wasn't a good idea, but I did it anyway. I even at one point in the recording wrote down my pain on the canvas because it was that bad. But once the line art was finally done, it was time to color him in with base colors, which was easy since he wasn't wearing anything, so that was probably the easiest step. Then I filled in the background and I worried about painting it later, but you'll see that also was a struggle. By the time I got to rendering Xavier, it was at that point I knew that I wasn't going to use this drawing for the process video, but I kept working on it. The reason why is because I experimented a lot more with the rendering here, and the wings yet again gave me some trouble. However, this time it wasn't that bad. After the first layer of shading, I was able to be pretty loose with the rest, and the colors were fun to play with, especially of the golden light and all the textures I was using. And beforehand, I actually added in splots of like white and gold and a bit more green, because when I filled it in with just the red, they kind of just looked like hawk's wings, so I wanted to try and experiment with that. And now it was time for the background. Now, one would think that the background wouldn't be that hard, right? Because it's just a cage with some rose petals. There isn't even really anything outside of the cage, right? No. Yet again, the background was one of the things that also took forever. For some reason, I just went crazy with the rendering of the very back in the cage bars, playing around with textures and stuff. Although it was fun, I still had to work on the rose vines. I tried to keep them simple. I just painted them in, but as I was working on it, it always felt like I was forgetting something or missing something, and it felt like I would never be done with the background. But eventually, I finally just decided to stop. And finally, I worked on the foreground, which I don't remember being too much of trouble, and worked on the final detail. So, obviously, the voiceover here isn't lining up with the video. The reason why is because the video that I didn't realize that the script that I had written was going to be so much shorter than the actual video itself. Yeah, that's the word, itself. So I'm just gonna ramble a little bit and talk maybe a bit more about the pain that this drawing caused me. Literally, my hand was tingling with numbness of the pain at a lot of parts, and I could have stopped, but I didn't. It's always like a hit or miss whether working on a drawing for a while is going to cause my hand pain or be like I didn't even draw at all. Because I guess it all depends on like how I'm gripping my pen and whether I'm tensed up a lot or not. Obviously, probably very tensed up while drawing this piece, but in a lot of other pieces I tend to be much more relaxed and just enjoying the process, so I don't tend to have much pain with those. And I think that's a good tip for beginner artists. If you're worried about pain in your hand, obviously it's good to take breaks, but if you are just going with the process and not tensing up too much, making sure you're keeping note of how you're gripping the pen and whether you're drawing from your elbow or your wrist, all those things can help you avoid long-term hand pain or carpal tunnel. I think, well, that's not guaranteed, but it can help you with pain in your hand, at least from my experience. So yeah, and again, obviously breaks are a very good thing. And you can tell that in this piece with Xavier, obviously lots of roses, especially with him holding a rose in his hand, which is obligatory in almost every piece that I've drawn of him. And I have actually drawn quite a few pieces with Xavier in it that I haven't shown here. He must hold rose in hand. Otherwise, is it Xavier? I don't know. Who is this? Could be Lai. Could be anyone. I don't know. But yeah, I really do enjoy drawing Xavier a lot, which is why I drew him in this piece. He's just one of those characters that I kind of like have gravitated more towards whenever I don't know which character I'm gonna draw in a thumbnail that I create. I talked about that in my illustration process video, but I will very often not know which character I'm going to be drawing for a thumbnail I created. And this does kind of exclude like fan art situations, because if I'm going to make a piece of fan art, I'm deliberately like going to be making a piece of fan art. So yeah, I don't make much fan art, but when I do, it's usually of characters that I enjoy. Well, I say that, but one of my future videos involves me making a lot of fan art, so it's not just funny. But yeah, like I said, my boy Xavier here, no Gaming with him this time. No Gaming. There's no Gaming in this one. I'm very sorry. Gaming isn't here. I actually drew this piece a while ago, way before I started on their Honkai Star Rail designs, which if you haven't seen that video, you can go check that out. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the speed paint being a bit more chill, and yeah, I'll see you at the very end. with that, I was finally done. Although I did complain a lot about the process, it wasn't all pain, and there were parts that were enjoyable, and I think it was all worth it. Because this one really is one of my favorite pieces I've made, and I hope that you like it too. And I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out all my artworks on my Instagram, linked below, as well as my webtoon comics, Hike's Magical World, The Mysteries of Hysteria, like I mentioned at the very beginning of last week's video. The next chapter of Hike's Magical World is out, so be sure to read that. And yeah, until the next video, I will see you then. Bye.